Next session is with Avinash and Balaji. This is focusing on the tech part. So Avinash, who heads our tech, will sort of start the session, and then Balaji will follow up with the analytics, and we'll have a combined Q&A session for them once Balaji finishes. Thank you. Over to you, Avinash.
Thank you, Abhijit, and very good morning, all. We are focusing on consolidation. So everything that you see, a lot of the conversations which have already happened, right? I mean, once built, we are trying to sort of, reuse the same. So consolidation, reusable architecture, and composability. What is composability? It is basically talks about, the API economy itself, where we have a massive integration layer which allows us to build various things and sort of, connect it almost like a Lego box out here. And we have a small segment which will come up trying to explain that a little further. Last but not the least is that as we try to now carve a path which is very different from what the peers are doing, obviously this means that, okay, there's a lot of focus in terms of in-house talent for in-house builds. When we speak about Siddhi, when we speak about a lot of the properties, I mean, these are all stuff, which you can't just acquire from the market. I mean, these are all built. So there's a lot of focus in terms of, the sheer talent, which is, working behind the scenes in terms of making it happen. And these are the 6 vectors that basically, sort of goes into this philosophy. And let me take a couple of minutes talking about each one of them. So what do we mean by enterprise class systems of engagement, right? I mean, and basically the way we look at it is that all our systems need to be scalable and they need to be future ready. In a country like India, right? I mean, when we started UPI, initially it started with a few thousand transactions. A couple of years back, I mean, as a bank, we were doing a few crore transactions. Now we are doing tens of crores. And the prep right now is around the fact that, okay, we will probably be at some point of time, maybe 4 years, 5 years down the line, the sheer quantum of transactions may even end up reaching, 50, 60, potentially 100 crores, right? So whatever we try to do over here, I mean, how do we basically sort of, build it for scale? And by doing that, how do we replace the fragmented old legacy systems that we essentially have? And it's important to standardize technology, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of technology out there. If you look at the technology world today versus how it used to be, say, 10, 15 years back, I mean, the sheer quantum of offerings in every area has, gone up multifold. I often joke internally around the fact that about a decade back, if you knew Oracle or if you knew SQL, I mean, these were the 2 database constructs that were more than enough. Today, if you were to type in Google, the different varieties of database, I mean, you will basically get a list of at least 200. So how do we standardize the technologies on which, the bank is going to be betting on? That's something at an architecture level, which is a big thing which essentially happens for us. And as we do all of this, we end up building proprietary technologies, right? We spoke about Siddhi, we spoke about Open. There are a lot more internally, right? And all of this gets powered through a modernized core. And one of the big choices that we have made this year, after focusing a lot on the customer of engagement, is around, how do we now consolidate the backend? And that is where, the Salesforce journey that we have sort of embarked this year comes into picture. It is scalable, it is modern, it allows us composability, and basically also allows us to, reuse whatever we are doing over here from one segment to the other. So we have an offering for the customer, we have an offering for the employees. How do we take care of the back offices? How do we take care of the workflows? The answer to that is going to be Salesforce. Last year, when we were here, I had spoken about the fact that, okay, we have sort of, we were amongst the early adopters in cloud. At that point of time, I think we had some 70 odd applications which were deployed on cloud. Today, that particular number has rapidly jumped to 120. Why is cloud important? I mean, cloud on its own is something which is obviously, choice. Cloud is important because as we take our applications to the cloud, and this number rapidly jumping on the cloud, it basically gives you a sort of a surrogate indication around the fact that, okay, our apps are now getting modernized. You can't lift and shift legacy applications directly to the cloud. There is some amount of modernization effort, which actually goes behind this. And when we take applications to the cloud, I mean, we need to also keep in mind, that it comes with certain constraints, right? Uh, we require skills. So this year we have focused in terms of, how do we automate deployments, checks, configurations on the cloud. It also requires a very specific skills around, FinOps. Because unlike, the previous regime where we could sort of, do a capex investment and sort of forget about it because it's within this particular bracket that we are going to be working. In case of cloud, it's a post facto bill that you end up getting. So if we need to be predictive about the fact that, okay, this is the budget and this is within which we are going to be operating, I mean, there is a huge amount of focus, in terms of what are the cost metrics, in terms of the applications, how do we basically bring it down, how do we spin it up, depending on demand, etc. So there is a focus area which essentially goes over here. And the reason we are sort of talking about all of this is that at the end of the day, this sort of explains, how in the trenches, work is essentially going on as we modernize the bank towards a digital core. For this year, the focus is in terms of, moving our data platforms to the cloud. Now, this is something that we are quite proud about, right? I mean, we spoke about partnerships, we spoke about integrations. I mean, if you think about it, the team which is working behind, which manages the entire API gateway, both internally as well as externally for the bank, it's a 30-member team completely belonging to the bank. This 30-member team keeps on producing APIs, keeps on coming up with microservices, and it is that which gets replicated right across, different things that we hear. I mean, if you speak about Open, if you speak about Siddhi, if you spoke about assisted journeys, I mean, all those things basically ride on this. Another important area over here is, how do we manage scale, right? I mean, it's one thing to sort of build APIs. The other thing on this one is in terms of the fact that, okay, these APIs are constantly getting challenged on volumes. So we have seen, multiple evolutions to this, multiple resiliency factors. Right now, as we speak, we have 2 high availability API gateways in production, and maybe in another 3 months' time, there's going to be third one, which we are basically experimenting whether we can sort of, do it directly out of cloud. So this is a constant, endeavor on our side in terms of, how do we sort of improvise what we essentially have. Now, this is an area where we get conservative, right? An area where there is continuous enhancement which is happening, unlike previously, where it used to require massive upgrade programs. Now, almost every week, different applications, patching, upgrades in terms of, whatever is new out there continuously happens. On a capacity side, on the core, on a lot of the product processes as we basically speak, massive investments. Core data center infrastructures that we have, I mean, that we have ramped it up 2x this year. Huge amount of drills, including cluster drills. Previously, it used to be drills of, say, one application at a time. We used to take one application from primary to DR. Now we have basically expanded that. Today, when we are doing a core banking drill, I mean, there are almost 20 odd applications which goes through it. So we have sort of created multiple clusters. This happens. And our drills, in order to ensure the fact that, okay, it is true to the concept of availability, we ensure the fact that, okay, we stay on the DR side for at least 1 week before we sort of, return. On the tech side, we have seen a 70% growth overall in the last 3 years. Lot of increase in terms of campus hires, which effectively means that not only is there a lot of focus in terms of training, there's also a lot of focus in terms of, upskilling. And as we work with some of the marquee names in the industry like Amazon, Microsoft, Google's, I mean, we have, tie-ups in terms of certification, etc., with all of them. And this is something, which keeps on happening at multiple levels. The idea is also, how do we get the developer community to start doing far more work in terms of boosting their productivity, and some of the experiments that we are doing with Gen AI, which is the next segment that we are sort of segueing into, is also in that direction. So today, on the developer side, we have sort of exposed them to a GitHub Copilot, which effectively means that, okay, when somebody's coding over there, I mean, there are prompts which is essentially sort of coming in terms of the fact that, okay, this is what your next line of code could be. So prompts, which basically sort of, help speed up productivity. Very early days, but we do see that over the next 12 to 18 months, I mean, this is going to be the new way of working. So we were amongst the earliest guys to make a bet on cloud, okay, and we believe that okay, it's a similar kind of bet that we are now trying to make on Gen AI itself. The vision is that going forward, a lot of the stuff that we are going to be doing as a bank will be AI powered. And there are three strategic themes that we are currently focusing on. One is on conversational banking, automation, and also service enablements, right? I mean, multiple projects, which is going to be focused, one of our focus areas over here. As you can imagine, this is something which is new to the market. I mean, when it comes to cyber security threats, etc., very little literature out there. I mean, there is a philosophical debate about AI itself, but it's an area that we are constantly watching. We continue to work with the best, and I think to speak about that, we have a testimonial over here.
Hello everyone, I'm Irina Ghosh, Managing Director, Microsoft India and South Asia. It's an honor to be here and share my insights and perspectives with all of you, and would like to thank Axis Bank for this opportunity. Over the last 6 months, the speed of generative AI technology adoption has been incredible. Axis Bank has been at the forefront of forward-thinking initiatives, pioneering the application of artificial intelligence in banking. Our journey with Axis Bank began with the strategy to modernize its workforce through the use of productivity tools and the adoption of cloud services to enhance employee efficiency. Axis Bank has been a pioneer in the Indian banking industry for adopting Microsoft's M365 suite across its frontline and back office. With Microsoft's investments in OpenAI, Axis Bank is the first bank in India and an early adopter in the global banking industry of the M365 Copilot, a generative AI powered virtual assistant integrated with Microsoft's productivity apps like Microsoft Teams, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and SharePoint. Building on their cloud-first strategy, Axis Bank has now adopted an AI-first approach, leveraging Microsoft's generative AI capabilities in areas such as voice agents, chatbots, and real-time assistance for enhancing customer service, improving operational efficiencies, reducing acquisition costs, and shaping the future of tech-led banking. As one of their platforms of choice, Axis Bank is now utilizing Microsoft Azure's various cognitive services, in addition to implementing process automation across retail and wholesale using computer vision capabilities such as optical character recognition and language services. Today, we are collaborating with Axis Bank on multiple AI transformation initiatives across banking areas in customer onboarding, service, and operations, and bring Microsoft's program and governance support to help accelerate this exciting phase of the bank's transformation using artificial intelligence. Thank you. Have a great day.